Welcome back to the channel, everybody. And yes, the southern border continues to escalate as the United States military officially announced, as of I think yesterday, that a Stryker Brigade with about 2,400 troops or so from Fort Carson would be headed down to the southern border to help the rest of the military down there and the border control to continue to secure the border. Now, if you don't know what a Stryker is, it is a mechanized infantry troop carrier, kind of like a tank, not quite, fast, mobile, hard-hitting, and this is definitely a pretty big escalation in what we have actually down there. We haven't seen troop presence like this at the southern border in something like 20 or 30 years, and it is having a big impact. Now, we're also going to talk about supposedly the cartels, especially the Smuggling cartel, is in a lot of sheer panic and disarray right now, as basically the ability to cross the border has been completely shut down. Obviously, that's having a huge impact on the drug trafficking. And if you haven't seen, we just had something like 29 cartel members, kingpins, extradited to the United States. Things are not going well for the cartels. So we're also going to talk about what we think the cartels are going to do in response. But first, let's jump into talking about who's actually being deployed from Fort Carson down to the southern border. Okay, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely helps the channel. Let's jump right into it. All right, there's reporting everywhere about this, but I figure we just look straight from the Department of Defense website and see what they're actually deploying down to the southern border. Let's take a look. All right, so here you go, U.S. Department of Defense. Pentagon deploys Stryker Brigade aviation battalion to the southern border. So also sending aviation helicopters as well. So the Pentagon is deploying a Stryker Brigade combat team and a general support aviation battalion to the southwestern border, accelerating efforts to fulfill Donald Trump's directive and bolster military support, securing the U.S.-Mexico border. All right, as we come down here, each SBCT, so that's a Stryker Brigade combat team, is a mechanized infantry force of approximately 4,400 soldiers. That's talking about an entire unit, okay? So there's units all over the place, Fort Carson, Joint Base Lewis McChord, different things like that. This one is going to be from the 2nd Brigade combat team under the 4th ID, and then it's going to be sort of under the directive of 10th Mountain, who's already down there, if you haven't already seen that, right? And then on top of the Strykers, there's going to be roughly 650 aviation troops bringing UH-60s, UH-60 Blackhawks for the command and medical evacuation, and Chinooks. These are troop carrier helicopters, right? So as it says here, the Strykers design lighter than tanks, yet more robust than light infantry, make it ideal for the border's vast terrain, while the aviation's battalion's air traffic control and lift capabilities ensure seamless coordination, okay? Now, why is this important comparatively to what we've already had down there? Okay, this makes our ability with the military at the southern border very, very mobile, okay? And when you're talking about guarding the southern border rather than just having a wall up, now the military has the ability to reach out and touch you and grab you if you're the cartel anywhere along that southern border, okay, with aviation units overhead and also having mechanized infantry to literally get troops out. And also Strykers are really good, right, because being much lighter than tanks and other APCs, they have the ability to go through sort of the desert and the sand a lot easier than your typical big boy type of tanks. And also start thinking about having full scale, you know, Abram tanks or something like that on the border. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Maybe not for right now. Okay, so Strykers, fast, mobile, aviation makes sense. This is definitely going to make it even harder for anyone to do anything across the southern border in those areas. All right, before we jump into the rest of the video, give me just a minute of your time from our partners of the world's most comfortable pair of jeans over at Barbell Apparel. All right, guys, we're back with our partners at Barbell Apparel, and I told y'all that not only are these the most comfortable pair of jeans that you're ever gonna wear, but you can literally work out in them. And that's what I'm gonna show you here today. I'm gonna do some heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, because these jeans are basically sweatpants, all right? Not only that, but the other best part about Barbell Apparel's jeans, lifetime guarantee. You rip them, you tear them, you get too big, you get too small, they're gonna replace them for you. You just send them in, they'll send you a new pair. All right, Barbell Apparel, they support the channel, but they also support America, the troops, the military, the veterans, and that's why I love working with them. So if you guys want to support my channel, the best way you can do that, head on over, buy yourself a pair of the world's most comfortable pair of jeans, go working out in them yourself. All right, guys, check this out. All right, now this also comes on the heels of the stats coming out from February that this has been the lowest recorded number of border crossings in this month in the last 25 to 35 years. All right, this is actually showing to have a huge effect what's happened already, and now adding another 2,400 troops, Stryker Brigade, extra aviation units, it's going to make it even more and more difficult. What does that mean for the cartels? The money printer is getting shut off, right? So it makes sense that supposedly, and we're going to watch a clip here talking about that the Sinaloa cartel especially is not handling this very well. All right, let's take a look at this clip and talk about it.
Now that this cartel operatives in Mexico say they're worried about being arrested or even killed as Trump cracks down on our southern border.
Maddie Rivera is in Washington with more. Maddie.
Hi, guys. Good morning. Yeah, the New York Times reports the Sinaloa cartel in particular has been disrupted because of President Trump's threats and Mexico's crackdown on cartels. Cartel operatives have reportedly had to move labs to other parts of the country or temporarily stop production. Other cartel members are becoming more afraid of being arrested or even killed. One person telling the New York Times, "You can't be calm, you can't even sleep because you don't know when they'll catch you. The most important thing now is to survive."
All right, now, is that good reporting, good information? I don't know. Hard to tell, right? Coming out of Fox News, they're talking about the Sinaloa cartel. They've got pictures of the Jalisco cartel's paramilitary on the screen. Who knows? But it would kind of make sense that, yes, at least in the southwest part of the border, the drug trafficking ability for the Sinaloa cartel is probably extremely limited. Of course, we know it's still coming in through the Gulf, still definitely coming in through the northern border, but this is an actual start. Now, talking about how will the cartels respond? Okay, so it could be two different ways. And I think an interesting clip to look at, we actually played some of this in a prior episode talking about the episode where potentially a Delta Force operator, Navy SEALs are in charge of the Jalisco cartel's paramilitary. But there was also a section in that interview where he talks about what the response from the cartels may be to this increased military presence. So I want to take a look at that, and then we'll talk about how we may see the Sinaloa cartel respond.
Do not do anything to awaken the slumbering giant. Stay away from Americans at all costs.
You mentioned in the email, and I would love to circle back to this, is what are some of the biggest challenges the United States military would face if deployed against cartels in Mexico?
There are fundamental difference between the cartels, and I can speak only about the Pacific side. I don't speak about the Gulf side. But on the Pacific side, Jalisco New Generation is much more militaristic. You know, Sinaloa prides itself on being clever. So they're going to adopt a posture where they'll just take a lower profile.
All right. So I like what he talks about here, talking about Sinaloa being, very clever in the way they do things and that they'll take a lower profile. To me, what that means is they're just going to wait out Donald Trump. I've seen other interviews talking about this, but if you're the cartels and you're in it for the long game, is there potential that less than 4 years from now, a new president comes in, the border opens right back up? Why risk it right now? America's politics moves everything's right here in our face, right? Every 2 to 4 years, that's the way we actually do anything policy wise. Maybe the best answer is for them to just kind of chill out, shut down operations for a little while, wait for a new president to come into America, and then ramp everything back up. That's potentially what I think you're actually going to see a lot of these cartels do, because as we can see here, just 2 or 3 days ago, there was something like 29 cartel members and cartel kingpins, drug lords, that were arrested and extradited to the United States from Mexico. All right, and then to finish up the video, we also want to talk about potential responses from the cartels, right? We talked about Sinaloa cartel, maybe they're going to lay low, just wait Donald Trump out. But what are other things that could happen, right? There's been a lot of people talking about, if we continue to press the cartels, shut down the money, is there potential for the cartel to get violent? Obviously, the cartel's already violent, but violent against Americans, American military, American citizens, things like that. I don't want to get too far into that video because I think it's a very interesting topic. There's a lot of sort of views on both sides of whether they will or not. And I'm going to do an entire video on that. But let's talk a little bit about if the cartel decides to get violent. Targeting U.S. citizens in the United States. Obviously, the cartel has a huge presence inside the country. We know that. Or the military, the border. Is it likely? Will it happen? I'm not sure, right? It's hard to tell, right? When people get desperate, you cut off all their money. Sometimes they'll lash out and do things that you might not expect. However, what I will say is, judging by the response of our government, the Department of Defense right now, the massive ramp up that continues to happen at the border, the bigger and bigger military presence we start to have at the southern border, the more likely it is that we use it, right? So if the cartel starts attacking American citizens, you can be probably guaranteed that the Trump administration is going to go as equally violent. We will probably push into areas in the southern border, clear white space, actually start to clear out the cartels. Whether Mexico likes that or not, I don't think that this administration is just going to sit quietly as violence begins to ramp up. But we'll just have to wait and see, because pretty much every week there's bigger and bigger escalations at the southern border, be it from our military, things happening with the cartels. It's obviously the number one priority right now for national security and national defense. So we'll just have to wait and see what continues to happen. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this one. Catch you on the next one.